Okay, so hello, this is the Drupal usability meeting for July 11th, 2017. And although we did not have a UX meeting in the past 2 weeks, there's a whole lot of things going on this week. As the alpha deadline for 8.4 is getting near, we have stuff to look at for workflows around draft revisions, published and friends, around how we name forward revisions and draft revisions, how we do dependent data changes for draft revisions that are not supported with revisions, a bunch of setting straight UX issues, a few small media UX issues, and we discussed to look at the available updates wording as well. So I think that's all the suggestions. If I missed something, then we can pick up more of them if time allows. But I think it would be nice to get started with something that's presentable, so that we don't need time to look at. So maybe if Juan Luis, you think that the available updates one is a short one, then we can start with that.
Yeah, basically, I think it's an issue that it makes people think, and it's really quick fix, in my opinion. But it needs the review from some English native speaker, because there are like two strings that do kind of different things, but they're basically the same string, so people like get confused. And at the end, Roy said that it will be wise to just update the issue. I mean, what do we need to do? And just put the right wording. That's pretty much it.
So let's see. So this is the change word so that the same link available updates does not link to two different pages in the same paragraph. And that's about the update status info that's being displayed. And it says there was a problem checking available updates for Drupal. See the available updates page for more information and to install your missing updates. And I guess the first one is checking available updates again, and the other one is, oh no, maybe not.
Like there was a problem checking available updates and review and install pending updates. I think there's the two words.
So what was Roy's concern? I see there's got a lot of discussion here. So
yeah, everyone said like a different set of strings, but no one like made it the good way.
So native English speakers required. Okay, so that wouldn't be me, but yeah, that's kind of what Roy suggested as well. Yeah, known pending updates are listed on the updates page. Huh. That's yeah. Yeah, in this case, it would make sense to say that things that we already know about are listed there, although we could not update the list that's available there.
I'm taking a look at it. So the comment was, should I just look at the patch for the current string?
Sure.
Or was there discussion?
That's
patch in 111.
Editor. Nah, it doesn't allow me to do that now. Yeah, it's kind of hard to fit into editor, so let's maybe look at it like this.
Checking.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
did
so
they
the first one is leading to the report update feature, and the second one is leading to the list of things that we already know about.
So the first change, oh wait, not the first one. The first one's the first one's see the second change, they're just removing the word for Drupal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that there's also this one here that's not changed. Also, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
The page that, so you can review your pending updates, but you can't really install your pending updates from that screen. There's no feature to install pending updates. So that's a kind of misleading you that you could actually use that page to install something, which is not true. I mean, it informs you what to install, but it doesn't allow you to actually install anything.
Yeah, I think I know this one happened something similar in the modules page, like uninstall a module. Actually, you don't uninstall a module; you just disable it. But
Yeah,
that's another issue.
Yeah. At least we can start another 100 comment thread here about
Kinda.
how to word this. I actually welcome this change, I think.
I will see this issue in Vienna for sure. Because it's really tough for people to just agree on definitely on sentences.
Yeah, it's actually maybe removing something that, yeah, maybe I'm not liking this change after all.
Maybe, I don't know, I'm not a native English speaker, but that last string, which there was a problem checking available updates for Drupal, it will be more like there was a problem checking Drupal available updates.
There was a problem checking available updates.
I think this Drupal here actually clarified what the problem involved.
Yeah, but I think, for example, on the first one, like where they removed Drupal, I think the first one is fine, but just put, instead of there was a problem checking available updates for Drupal, something like there was a problem checking Drupal available updates.
I think if you were going to switch that order, it'd probably be like there was a problem checking Drupal for available updates,
or something like that. Yeah.
Or is it?
I'm not sure. I mean, the problem I could see with the second one, where you don't say Drupal, is if you have some sort of custom functionality in your site that, like, or even just updating comments, or if you're checking updates from some service that you're integrating with, you may have a very similar message on your site in custom code or in the contrib module. And if you don't specify, like, this is a Drupal update, then
Drupal core, yeah,
it can be confusing.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we found problems with all of them, unfortunately. There's already needs work. Yeah. So reviewed. We did not read all of the 119 comments, so it could be that all of these things were mentioned already.
I read like 85% of them, and yeah, and Some of that was mentioned, some of that was not mentioned.
All right. So it's already needs work. Let's save this in case Drupal.org fails something. You never know. All right. Good. I'm not sure we clarified anything there, but maybe some more food for thought. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I'll pick the next direction. So we did this. And who wants to go next? Do we want to look at workflow?
Yeah, I can go next.
Cool.
So for me, it's just it's actually just a quick update. In the last usability call, we decided on the message that we want to show users after they save a node and change something that could not be changed because they saved the draft. But in the meantime, since last week, we fixed content moderation, and we can now just fail with a proper validation error on the form. So that's what we're going to implement for all the 3 criticals around this. And yeah, that's about it. It's basically Francesco's last comment in that issue.
So the context here, for those who did not follow, is workflow, specifically content moderation, works with revisions of content. So you can post revisions of content that are not yet published, even if you have published revision of your content already. So you can have forward revisions, which may be cold draft revisions later on. And some things that are related to content, like path aliases, menu items, and book hierarchy, do not have revisions. So when you save a forward revision that's not yet published, or is not the default revision, then data could leak to the live path alias book hierarchy menu item. So we discussed that we would give an error message to users and still save the content, right? That was last time, and now you say that there's proper validation now. So what does that mean?
That means the user will not be able to save the form anymore without reverting the changes to a path alias, to the menu settings, or to the book outline.
So you're gonna get an error on the field?
Yes, on the entity form. And it should highlight the field in question.
Yeah, I think the problem we've had before is that there was no way to identify ahead of time if there were elements in the form that would cause that to happen, and that's why we let the save process go forward and then put out an error for the thing that we could not save.
Yes, exactly. But it turned out it was quite easy to fix on the content moderation part, and we can just go on with the proper quote fix unquote.
Cool. So what's the plan? So do you have an error message that contains the value to restore, or how is that going to work? Or somebody would need to remember what value to enter there?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but then I realized in no other form we are showing the previous value of a field.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's an issue here. I mean, this is just regular Drupal UI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true that when you enter something that's invalid, then we are not telling you. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so we
Right.
got easy.
You're right. You are right. Okay. Okay. Cool. So any other comments on this from others?
No, not for this specifically.
I guess that I'm muted and I'm muted, so that means no comments. Okay. So this applies to 3 issues that can now move forward. That's cool. So we already have Keith on the call, and we did not have topics that Keith specifically suggested, but he also needs to drop soon. So do you have stuff to discuss to unblock, Keith, for sample content?
No, nothing to unblock. I just thought if you wanted a quick update, I can provide one. If you wanted just sort of
Yes,
where
please.
we're up to in the process. So I believe Lowry has recently marked the content model for sample content ready for review. RTBC, sorry. And off the back of that, we're going to start releasing the designs that we've been working on. So we have some designs to go along with the project, which covers pretty much all of the pages in the proposed theme and scenario. So that's pretty much ready to share, and we'll be reviewing that and discussing that process on Thursday's meeting. We've also been working on content itself. So we were producing a load of recipes, and then the API First team thankfully noticed that there is a recipes website available that seems to have the right licensing for us to be able to use their recipes. So that saves quite a lot of content creation work, which is great. Obviously, we probably still need to look at producing some imagery for that so we can get the quality there. And we've been writing articles. So we needed about 12 articles to make the theme feel convincing. I know Holly was working on that today. I know she wrote another 2 today. So I think we might be just about there with articles as well. So as far as the sample content is concerned as well, we should be in pretty good shape. So also there is, I know that Lowry's been working with, I don't know who, but someone's starting to look at the style guide. So they're actually producing a style guide. I know that there's, obviously we're not using any contrib modules in the installation profile. So we need a method to have a style guide approach to the theme. And I know that Christina's been working on the installation profile visuals for installation, the actual installation dialogue. So I think that's where we're up to at the moment.
So I think Roy wanted to look at the install profile thing. Do we have a updated version to look at that we haven't discussed yet? Because we did discuss it before. Did we?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that part of this initiative as something that could be worked on independent of well, actual progress on sample content, etc. As in, it would be useful or would be a good design improvement to the installer with or without extra install profiles on it. So I was wondering if that's something that we could just start working on. I don't think there's new designs. I think the design that's there now is something that we also presented to Dries, I think. And I think we all agreed that it looked pretty good. So yeah, I was just wondering whether Keith or the team would be interested in, well, starting to push that part of the initiative, let's say, as something that could be set in motion.
That sounds good. Shall I bring that up on Thursday?
Yeah.
No problem. I think there was a conversation around that label, wasn't there? But that got discussed as well in the meeting, didn't it, Roy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Mm.
There was discussion, and I think maybe we discussed that red as something that we want to reserve for error states, which this is not. Anyway, it's just a small piece of the initiative that I think we can chip off and start looking at how to implement it.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. I'll definitely bring that up on Thursday. No problem.
Cool. Thanks. Did you? And the other thing, I saw the bit about the style guide. I don't know. Maybe you went over it. What is the idea behind the style guide?
That's a good question.
Because I was skeptical at first, as in, how does this help us ship the actual demo content, install profile, etc. But maybe it's a part of showing good design at work, etc.
Yeah, I think probably we're going to need the latest update from the team, because I wasn't able to join any conversation that might have happened last week, and there was some crossover there that it was just starting to be addressed there. It's basically just so that when we're theming, we've got the key ingredients of the theme all laid out within a style guide of some form. So I'm guessing that the theme's going to include some either static or dynamically produced HTML that we theme against there. So there is some style guide approach in there, just to keep it a bit easier to keep things in track with how it all works.
Okay, it's the visuals back in that same.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Anything else you'd like to hear from us at this point?
No, I think obviously that's everything from my perspective. I'm pretty busy just still going through the designs and making sure every single visual is has got common features laid out correctly, get all the font sizes absolutely right across all the visuals. So plenty for me to do.
Make sure there's some little errors still in there so that people can pick on those and not throw away.
Rather than the design.
Rip out the whole approach.
Yeah, good idea. That's good.
Okay, well, maybe that's it for sample content then.
Yep.
Thanks.
Unless there's any questions, yep.
That sounds very good. Good
Brilliant.
job. So we need someone to cook the recipes, though, to have the photo.
Yeah, that conversation's already started.
I think it's at the demo and sample content theme sprint somewhere this autumn.
Yeah.
It's an offsite at a good kitchen.
Yeah. Maybe 4 Kitchens wants to sponsor.
Exactly.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Unfortunately, I do need to fly.
Thanks, Keith.
Sure.
Speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So that was good timing. So we can, I guess, return back a bit to revisions. So we have the 2 issues that Roy brought up. I think the wording around draft revisions published in Friends.
Yes, I'm hearing that Francesco Placella pinged me because he's looking at the workflow and reviewing any workflow criticals, and he pointed me to that one as something that was marked. I think it's a major issue, but as a critical for the initiative. I'll admit to not actually going in depth on it, but it's about, so the first one is 28755154, clarify and document the wording around drafts, revisions, published, and friends. I'll paste the link in the Hangout chat. This one. Yeah, there's a whole, let's say, cluster of terminology around the labels for the states your content can be in. There's revisions, which is a different word, I guess, for versions. Do we go with revisions or versions? There's a default version, there's a forward revision, there's a draft, which could be the same as a forward revision. Comment number 2 has a lot of comprehensive thoughts by Catch, a long time Drupal committer and contributor who basically does a brain dump on how he's been stumbling over that since forever. He outlines a possible approach to what to call what. I think at least Placella, Francesco Plach, likes the what's outlined there. I only just commented today, shifting it shifting it away from what do we call default or forward or whatever, and I was thinking about the revision word and how it's always has been called revision because there's this checkbox for save as a new revision since ages, right? And it's fun to see that the examples that Catch posts in his number 2 comment there, just scroll a bit down, that last bit of his comment, Gabor, and then you see some examples in terms of UI text. There's a published version of this item. You are currently editing a draft version. So I'm just talking to outline a bit what the problem space is here. Let's see. There's the words we use in the front end, right? In the user facing bits, and Catch rightfully points out that whatever we choose would have to, as much as possible, be reflected in the code and comments under the hood. I wanted to call this issue out as something we should look into. I'm not sure if it's very useful to actually discuss the individual parts of it right now. But I wanted to point out that the issue exists as a blocker for workflow, I guess. I don't know. Andre, do you have specific thoughts on this or not?
So he's also using pending revision instead of forward revision, but then he's not using that in the suggested text versions. So there's also this other issue that was on the agenda to replace all uses of forward revision with draft revision.
Yes.
Which is not what Catch is suggesting. At least he's differentiating between pending revision and draft revision, as draft being the state of the revision and pending being the not yet, just the forward from default revision, basically. So I think that this replace all users of forward revision was a misunderstanding of what Catch suggested, I think. Because if we call all forward revisions draft revisions, then this problem of some draft revisions being draft and some not being draft, and yeah, that's just...
What's the difference between a forward revision and a draft?
So the forward revision is basically a revision that it was created later than the currently public version of the content.
Right. Can there
So
be
that's
drafts that are
created later? So it will likely be used later, but not necessarily, but maybe used later. And draft is just a state that any revision could be in. It may be a thing that is a draft that's not yet published. So it has no forward revisions, but it's a draft, or it could be a draft that's a forward revision.
So it sounds like we can't merge those two.
I think. So what to do? So now we have two workflow people on the call. What do you think of my assessment?
For them, it's all very clear.
I hope.
Not necessarily. So we just haven't given that much thought into this, because once you work with something for a very long time, it's easy for you to just get that terminology stuck in your head. So yeah, I don't really have any specific suggestion or something to object or discuss about this specific issue.
On the other hand, to me, draft revision, forward revision was quite a verb which I didn't understand for a long time. So maybe for people outside of Drupal or newcomers or whatever, draft revision is maybe easier to understand.
Yeah, I struggled with. Maybe it's been called future revision as well. So at some point, I don't know.
Is there a case where draft revision and forward revision is the same revision, but are there other cases where the forward revision is not the same as the draft revision? Is that why we need the distinction?
Yeah, I think that's the question, right? Because if there is different, then we need two labels, right?
So the editorial workflow in core has three states: archived, draft, and published. So a thing could be could be a draft, but it could be the current revision and not a forward revision. And it could have, I don't know if it could have forward revisions that are also drafts. I don't know.
But I guess also like core allows you to add new states, so you could potentially add a needs review. So then you would have draft needs review, and the needs and something in needs review is technically a forward revision, but to call it a draft revision is confusing because it ties to a specific state.
Yeah, so I think the draft, we already use it as a state name and in the workflow. So that confuses things, I think.
I think that's why Cache proposes the term pending revision.
Yeah.
The pending revision can be both, right?
Yeah. It could be whatever workflow state it is, which could be any workflow state that's valid in a pending revision, right? It needs review, it needs translation, and needs whatever. It needs sign off from management, whatever workflow state.
So what we're now calling either pending or what's it called now again?
Forward revision.
Forward is something that was created later or edited or saved as later than the currently
live revision, which we call the default revision currently.
So yeah, I understand pending better.
Then forward.
Because yeah, it's hanging there.
Yeah.
for when it's done, and it can be used as the default one.
Yeah. Yeah, he also says in turn, using pending revision allows draft and draft revision to refer to revisions of not yet published entities as well as not yet published revisions to published entities, which is both the case. Yeah.
Right, here he is actually saving draft for a state, right? A moderation state. No? Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. To use the word draft only in the context of a moderation state. I think that would be that sounds like a good guideline, right? Do not use draft in the context of pending revisions or future revisions or forward. I keep forgetting forward.
Yeah, if we're choosing between forward and pending, to me, pending sounds more clear. Like forward, I think if you're not aware of like what workflow states are, the general concept, or it's kind of confusing. I think the only downfall of forward, I muted. The only thing I could think of pending being better is that, or sorry, forward being better, even though it's potentially not as clear. I don't see that somebody would make a custom state called forward, but I could see somebody making I feel like pending would be a common custom state. So then we're not conflicting with something core it provides, but I feel like if we use pending, we're possibly conflicting with a very common state name that people would use.
So you're saying we're potentially claiming a sort of namespace for something that people may be using in another context.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be obvious that it was taken, right? Because you only see it in messages. So if you looked at the page and you thought, oh, I'm going to add a new state, I'll add pending, it's not obvious that pending is going to be used for something else. Like you wouldn't use the word state, right? Or you wouldn't use the word, say, revision, because you would see on the page already like, oh, these are used words. But you actually wouldn't see pending until you actually see one of these user messages, right? Probably.
That's a good question. Where do we, when and where are these words used? In messages only? Or is
Put it on the screen. Though pending does, I feel like pending is more clear. If we could somehow get people to understand it's sort of a reserved term in core.
Yeah, I don't think we'll solve the problem here.
No, but
we.
I'll write up a comment and at least I'll try to summarize our considerations here. Our preference for pending and something about not using draft in the context of forward or pending, but keeping drafts as the word to use for an actual moderation state. Sounds fair?
Yep.
So another thing that could be written in the guideline, I think, by reading the comment there, is I think he's referring to revision like everywhere in the code, but in the UI, we should always refer to it as a version.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be useful to mention.
Yeah, that's at least 3 bits of feedback people can chew on. Yeah, I'll add that. Thanks.
Alrighto. So there was all the workflow issues that we've had. So now on to settings tray.
All right. I'll post that doc that I posted in UX in the chat. Find it real quick. So settings tray again needs to be stabilized by Alpha 1, which is coming at the end of the month. So there's the 2 issues that are sort of needed for stabilization. Roy has been commenting on both. Thanks. The first one is more of a top priority. Basically, it's deciding, like, so when you go into edit mode, it's going to display a message. Right now, the message is you're in edit mode. The second issue is actually, is that the correct wording? The first issue is how should that dialog look? Should it be a bar across the top? Should it be in a toolbar? Should it use the standard dialog system? The latest version that I posted uses the standard dialog, but sort of removes the title area. So you don't have a title and then a description. You just have one area you would put the message in. I sort of voted against putting it in the toolbar because we don't necessarily know what other elements are going to be in the toolbar when you're in edit mode. Layout, the field layout, people are already looking at putting stuff up there. And the dot. Yep.
Do you maybe have a screen you can share? So
yeah, I can share my screen. It's just let's see.
Or we go to the issue and look at screenshots.
Yeah, but yeah, that's where I was going to go to the. Let me find the issue again. So let's try. Oops. Okay. You guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Loading.
Yeah.
All right. Loading. So this was the original up at the top here. This is the original. It was part of a meeting. Part of a video this GIF was made out of, and it just shows like a longer message, but it shows the sort of just white, no title section there. Then if you scroll down to the very bottom, this is the current. I'll show Roy's in a second. This is what the current patch would look like. Again, the text is the separate issue that we're going to try to figure out what that is. And I think because the text is a string, we can actually change it later after alpha, as long as we get the technical sort of look of it and how it works correctly. So then Roy posted 3 different alternatives. I'll go to his first one first. No, actually, that's
the current, right? Or not the current anymore? But...
Yeah, not the current, but this was the current at the time you were posting.
And this this looked a bit too much to me, right? This has a title and a body.
Yeah.
I guess we should try and have one line of text, etc.
Yeah. So the first proposal, Rory, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, well, there's this white strip that shows when you're actually in editing mode. So I thought maybe I can put it there. And I added another screenshot where it basically also fit in very small screens because icons.
Yeah, so that one's there.
But it's of course very, very specific to this use case and not taking into account anything else that might be added to
And the
that
last,
actual space. And then
the last one
was,
you had was this one.
yeah.
So this one would work. I think the only downfall of this is that it doesn't use the standard dialogue system. But actually, now that I say that, we can actually apply styles to the standard dialogue. So we could make the standard dialogue look like this. So if the bar is better, I haven't actually tried it, but if this bar here is preferable visually to this, at first when Roy posted this, I was thinking, well, let's not do this because then we have to write specific JavaScript code just for this. So that's why I sort of voted for the second version. But now that I look at Roy's,
It's a
probably
Firebug
we
mockup.
actually,
So I only tweaked
yeah,
some CSS to the actual patch to make it look
yeah,
like this.
probably we could actually use the dialogue system for this. So then we wouldn't have to, we'd get the close button for free. We'd get everything else for free as far as announcing it and stuff like that. True. Yeah, I think so. So I guess if the question is visually between, I don't know, I guess, yeah. So thoughts? Oh,
I'm going to ask Christina to have a look at this. She's not here today. I always like to get actual visual design feedback from her.
yeah. The other thing actually I thought of now, the advantage over this one we're looking at, is if we did it a particular way, that is the way it's mocked up here, is that the screen is being pushed down, so you can actually edit anything on the page. Whereas
Yeah, right now it covers it does cover the user login.
Yeah, and depending on what's there, it could cover anything. So the idea, though, that being, I mean, we could still use the dialogue and push stuff down. That's what we're doing with the tray, but visually, yeah, this pushing the content down does mean that you can leave it there without and start editing right away.
I think it's a relative. Sorry, go ahead.
I just have one related question. Isn't one working on anything like timed messages? So it would close automatically after a few seconds. If you remember, Roy, we were talking about that in regards to workspaces. When you switch workspace, that a message like this could come up and then after a few seconds just hide itself. I also had it. I also had this kind of messages in workspaces designs. When you update or deploy something, then it would display a message. This amount of content has been deployed, and after a few seconds, it closes.
I think that will be cool.
And that message you're talking about would sort of be in the same area that we're looking at here.
I can pull up the prototype real quick.
I think that the first one you showed, that's I think the one that said like you're in a editing mode, but was part of the top bar. I think the one before that. Go up a little bit. Yeah, that one could be made like with a timer. I mean, after 5 seconds, you just hide it and that's it, because you're notifying the user that it's on an edited mode, and we're not pushing anything down. I mean, the page won't jump up and down, and we won't hide any content if we want to position that message, let's call it that way, that message above my account and login and so on and so on.
Yeah, if it would automatically disappear, then this would be a nice design to have. Because if we were covering anything in that space there, it would become available again after a few seconds.
So if you can look at my screen, the way how I have it is, so when you have a workspace switcher open and then you deploy, it goes through the whole process, updating, checking for conflicts, and then deploying. And once this is done, it shows the message, and after a few seconds, it just closes, it disappears.
Did we already see it?
Yeah.
Or is that? Oh, I missed it.
I can play it again.
There.
I guess that's a potential downfall. Oh, that one to the top right?
Oh, yeah, it will.
Okay, so starting it now. So it's
See
updating.
that empty gray space?
The
Here,
message
programs.
will be well.
The message will be here.
Yeah. Hangouts keep switching.
Yeah.
It was talking, so I couldn't see it.
Oh,
I see.
if you click on the actual user's thumbnail, it will stay focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can play a third time.
Yeah.
So yeah, updating, checking for conflicts, deploying, and the message will appear here. And it's gone.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But this is a message, right? And I think
Yeah.
that is usually a little dialogue thing. Anyway, I think this is. Sorry.
So I also looked at what we have top bars for. It's a different, maybe a bit different question, but maybe very similar. I also shared my screen.
Oh yeah.
So we at least have a top bar for previewing a node. It has this blue thing with view mode, whatever, and then a button to go back to content editing. And we have a top bar for block region demonstration, which is just this like floating button-y thing that goes over the page. And the node preview is a floating thing that goes over the page but takes on the full screen.
Good
That's
point.
at least the two things that we already have something like this.
Yeah, we should probably standardize these.
I think.
That's why I pulled this up. Is like if we make up a third thing.
Yeah, someone just mentioned style guides, right?
Similar to something that we already have. And these are two stable features, so.
I like the one we're looking at on top here, as far as maybe a way to show the message.
That's a node preview, yeah.
So there's a sort of related issue that is really, doesn't really have a UX aspect right now. It's very technical, but I'll post it because it kind of relates. This is a way for dialogues to specify a renderer, and that is basically what we're using in the tray. So when you specify, it's like a dialogue link, you can say, and I want to use the tray renderer. So this issue is to sort of make this a common thing that you can just specify a specific renderer. So one thing we could do in the example of what Gabor was showing with that top bar, if we make a renderer for dialogues that would actually display it that particular way, then any person who wants to use it wouldn't have to say, oh, I have to apply this particular style or this class to get this to show up and make sure the behaviors work. You just have to say, this is an Ajax link, or this is a dialogue link, and I want it to show up in say, we'll say like the top bar renderer. And I think that would make it easier for different modules to have a similar look. Is because you don't have to actually try to emulate the other look by applying CSS. You would just say, pass it off to this particular class to render it.
I did not follow.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, basically,
it's an easy way for developers to put stuff in this bar, basically.
Yeah, which with them not having to say, oh, I like the way that the preview bar looks. Let me figure out what they did and redo it so it looks exactly the same. You would just say, ultimately, if preview wasn't there, you would say, preview bar, use the top, the top bar dialog, and then anything else that wanted to look similar and have the similar behavior would just say use the top bar dialog, so that contrib could use it, and anything sort of like the tray, that contrib can use the tray, and that hopefully we'll get a sort of uniform look. We can hopefully now expand our dialog system for kind of stuff like this. I guess this is different because it doesn't pop up. The page is already loaded this way, but so in edit mode actually is engaged after it's loaded.
So it would basically have a predefined style or look and feel for text, for messages, for buttons, for actions, or anything like that.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I was going to suggest when we were looking at that the workspace. I'm not sure that sort of top area. I'm not sure if you guys are using the dialogue system, but I had chatted with Tim briefly about it on IRC, that potentially if you guys use that specifying your renderer and use the dialogue system, that you can sort of abstract that sort of behavior so that if other things make sense to show up there, they don't have to sort of reinvent it.
Okay. Yeah. Another thing was which I wanted to check with you was colors. If we have the same colors for background, the gray and blue, for buttons, etc.
For the tray versus the workspace thing on top.
Yes. But we can check on that separately.
Yeah. I'll ping you with the CSS reset we're using, and potentially, if maybe we can get it to where it would, just apply the reset to different areas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is totally unrelated, but this could be also used for the block demonstration to have the same button, because it's basically the same interaction here.
Yeah, that exit block region always looked weird to me.
Yeah, it's the same as the back to content editing.
Yeah.
Well, at least very similar.
Yeah. Sorry for sidetracking. So I guess back to that issue with the settings tray and the message there. So I would love, I do like the idea of the timed messages, but I feel like that's sort of a wormhole or something that we could perhaps add later, like the ability for dialogues to fade or to disappear after a certain time. Potentially, if we used Roy's design of having it not in the toolbar itself, but right below it, sort of like the preview page, we could pass an option to say, like, this is a temporary dialogue, that if you don't exit it, it will exit itself. But it is something that seems like that would make sense to add on the dialogue system level.
Yeah, that's definitely nice to have, and not something that we should try and invent in this issue.
Okay.
The automatically disappearing one. Yeah. I'm adding a comment. I did make a screenshot of what Gabar showed us.
Okay.
Should look into if we can standardize this a bit. Even that is not necessarily what you're looking for scope-wise, but that is an interesting little mini briefing for a designer who might want to look into creating.
So standardizing it with the preview bar kind of thing.
Yeah, the preview, and you're now the block preview and preview. Yeah.
Okay.
Block demonstration and. But I'm also adding that either way, this single line of text in a dismissible dialog that's tucked closely under the toolbar is a good step in the right direction.
Okay.
So I think you're I think you're good. We're not going to not stabilize settings tray on whatever this becomes exactly. The end of this one.
So I think we're over time, right? So
Yeah.
if people just want to look at those issues, if anybody has questions, I mean, if anybody looks at those issues and has questions, feel free to ping me on Slack or IRC.
Will do. Thanks,
All right.
Ted.
Yep. Thanks for all the feedback.
Yeah, I think we generally ran out of time.
Yep.
So there's 2 media issues that I will ping on the channel again, and we'll see if it will be picked up. There are simple terminology feedback requests.
Well, then we're all dismissed for now, right?
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. It's great.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
We made a lot of progress.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.